evening. My name is Ajay Rao. I'm with the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. I am newly landed in Mumbai at my new post, where I take up a new position as the Regional Managing Director for South Asia for the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. We call the DFC. I have a fantastic panel with you today, full of entrepreneurial spirit and first-time entrepreneurs themselves, first-generation entrepreneurs. We understand that we have the last panel here at Sankalp, and what an honor, because we're going to bring a lot of energy to the discussion. You know, the sun sets here in Mumbai, but the sun is rising over where Dia is in Washington. So I'll first give a quick introduction to our panelists, and then we'll get right to it. In the lovely red color, we have Dia Martin, who's the Managing Director. She joins us from Washington, D.C. She's Managing Director of DFC's Social Enterprise Finance Team. And then we also have Sri Kumar Misra, who is the founder and Managing Director of Milk Mantra, joining us from Bhubaneswar in Odisha. And then here in Mumbai, we have Ms. Purnima Khandelwal, who's joining us from here in Mumbai, and she's the co-founder and CEO of I&I Farms. And then joining us from Chennai is Dr. Vetravel Chokanathan, who I call Dr. Vetri, and he is the founder and Managing Director of Be Well Hospitals. So good evening and good morning to our panelists. At first, we wanted to talk about founding stories. And we're here today to talk about the Portfolio for Impact and Innovation program, which we call Pi Squared. And all of our panelists today, who are the founders of these businesses, benefited or benefiting from the Pi Squared program. But first, we want to turn it over to Dia Martin to talk about what she saw in the market and why start the Portfolio for Impact program, and if she can tell us about how it has evolved over time. So over to you, Dia.
Perfect. I want to say thank you first, Ajay, and also thank you so much to the Sankalp team. It's such a pleasure to be a part of your global summit, and it's a great way to start my Friday morning fresh from DC. So I'm very glad to be here. And I'm extremely excited to talk about the Pi Squared program. As Ajay mentioned, this is a program that we started in 2015. We saw there was a real gap in the marketplace for financing earlier stage innovators and social entrepreneurs. And we were just so excited about a lot of the innovative business models, the development impact, and the viability, the long-term viability and sustainability of these companies, that we wanted to come into the market and create a tailor-made approach to finance this segment of the market where we saw this gap globally in all of the countries where we operate, including Asia, Africa, and Latin America as well. So the way the Pi Squared program is set up is that we provide earlier stage financing. Often we are one of the first institutional investors to come into the company, and we like to see ourselves as providing longer-term patient capital to enable the company to scale and grow into profitability, to move into new markets, and also to replicate their business model, as well as go into tangential areas of operations. And our goal is to really tailor our financing for very high impact companies. And you'll find later on in this panel how we look at development impact and how we measure it. But I think of no better way to describe the program than to listen to the stories of the entrepreneurs that we have here today, and for them to discuss their business and how our financing was able to support them. And just before I turn it back over to Ajay, just some details about the program. We provide financing throughout the DFC's toolkit, so it could be debt financing, equity, as well as technical assistance. We can provide financing up to $10 million. We have financing across the range from 2 million to 10 million. And we look at companies that may have up to, I would say, a year or more of operations past the pilot phase. So they're earning revenue, but they really need this additional financing to scale and to grow. And it's a really diverse portfolio of companies. To date, we have committed across 37 different transactions, totaling an amount of about 170 million. So I'll just pause right there because I think what's most compelling is the individual stories that you're about to hear today. So thank you.
Thank you, Dia, for that introduction. We're going to talk a lot about market gaps kind of in this first section and what our panelists have seen, but I would say it's innovative in itself for you to start such a program within the government, and you saw and you had such great vision as we looked at the market demand and showing how DFC was responsive to that. So I'd first like to turn it over to Ms. Purnima and ask her about what she saw in the market when she was looking at the way fruit was distributed and how she started, and if she could tell us a little bit about I&I Farms and its operations. Over to you, Purnima. You're on mute.
I realized that. Sorry about that. Thanks, Ajay. Morning, dear, and absolute pleasure to be here. Ajay, you spoke about being first-time entrepreneurs. So I'd like to go back a little bit into history. So I started working pretty early. At the age of 18 itself. Come from a business family, so started working with my dad. Could have possibly inherited a large business, but got married and had to give all of that up and really figure out what next in life. So yes, 2003 is when we started on our own, and this is Pankaj and I, who happens to be the co-founder and also my husband. We looked at consulting to begin with, got to work on agri consulting assignments, and that's coming from a very professional background. When we looked at the whole agri space, we realized that there was scale, there was impact, and for us, agriculture was a call of passion. When we looked at it from an outside-in perspective, it was something that really excited us. Way back in 2009-10, when I&I Farms got founded, the entire supply chain was completely fragmented. You had millions of small farmers on one end of the spectrum, and you had millions of small buyers in the domestic market at the other end of the spectrum. And you had anywhere between 5 to 7 intermediaries handling the fruit as it moved from the farm to the retail. And we realized that, even if the farmer was producing good quality fruit on his field, the entire supply chain was actually not handling the fruit adequately and properly, which was leading to massive value loss. So that is what we figured out was the problem, and therefore we decided to have an integrated value chain approach to our business. We decided that we will, within the agriculture space, our heart line, was in fruits, and that's what we picked up. We decided to pick up, one product at a time. So we picked up pomegranate first, and then we picked up banana. And the entire approach was to play across the value chain, start working with the farmers, because that is where the quality is getting produced, right? The entire supply chain is only then taking care of the quality that has been fundamentally been produced at the field itself, right? So we said we need to first get down to farm level intervention, start working with farmers, figure out what is it that the market is wanting on specific crops, what are the interventions that are required, start working with farmer on those, and then ensure that the supply chain is adequately prepared to maintain the sanctity of fruit as it moves from farm to the retail. So today we are handling about 40,000 fruit. We have 3 lines of products: pomegranates, bananas, and we have a fresh cut range, which is more convenience oriented for our Western consumers. Where a pomegranate is de-seeded, your seeds are taken out so that it's ready to eat for a Western consumer. So those are the 3 lines of products for us today, working in about 35 countries across the world, right from US, Canada, down to New Zealand, working in about 8 states with almost 5,000 farmers across these states, have been able to build almost a 200 people setup with almost 500 plus contracted labor across different geographies today. So yeah, that's been the journey so far. And going forward, of course, it's more about expansion. We've recently launched our D2C initiative, which is going direct to consumer. Food safety, hygiene are very, very central and important in our overall journey. So yes, Ajay, that's what I&I Farms is about. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride so far, and looking forward to the growth from here on.
Thank you, Purnima. That was an excellent summary, and it was so interesting to hear about how sometimes choices are made for us, and sometimes that we need to have energy and make choices. That we come from maybe structured backgrounds, but to have that energy and enthusiasm to jump out and start something on your own. So I think that Dr. Vetri has a similar story of coming from the background as a practicing clinician, as a physician himself, and then moving out to hospitals, and then exploring on his own, doing something entrepreneurial. So I'll turn it now to Dr. Vetri. If you could tell us a little bit about your background and what you saw in the market there in Tamil Nadu, and tell us about the operations of Viva Hospitals.
Good evening, all. It's a pleasure to be here. I think thanks to Daya, Ajay, and the Telecap team for organizing this event. I think it's a fantastic get-together event. My name is Dr. Vetri, and I'm a medical doctor. And I'm the first generation doctor in the family, and also the first generation entrepreneur. So basically, I finished my medicine in Chennai, in India, and then I was abroad for about 10 years, traveled across Europe and Australia. And I returned back to the country and quit my clinical practice and went into hospital administration. I took a specific liking to hospital administration for a reason like, when you see the healthcare delivery system in the developed country, and when you're back in your country, I found there's plenty of space there where it could be improved. So that was the kind of thought process. I switched over to hospital administration, and I had a very good 9 years of experience in one of the leading private hospital network in the country called Apollo Hospitals, which was a very good eye-opener for me. And 10 years of working in India, I found there was a huge gap in the healthcare delivery model. I'm sure all of you would know how a healthcare system is organized in terms of primary, secondary, and tertiary care. But tertiary care basically handles all the major procedures like heart transplant, heart surgeries, and radiation surgeries. And there are secondary care hospitals, which basically are run by individual doctors. So overall, in the private healthcare ecosystem in the country like India, there's a huge gap. On one side, you have an organized players in the tertiary space like Apollo Hospital, Max Hospital, Fortis, you can go on, and they are all like a 500-bed hospital with loaded with technology. And on the other side, you have individual doctor-owned small hospitals, regionally located. So I saw a clear opportunity in that space of establishing a network of secondary care hospital. That was the kind of excitement that we started in 2011. The first hospital was started in Pondicherry. That was a 50-bed hospital. The model is simple. We go out an asset-light model, establish 50 to 75 bed size hospital, and we position ourselves as a 24 hours emergency care provider, because that is one thing which, by providing access to emergency care provider, you actually provide a kind of a fantastic avenue for the public, because they are always caught in an emergency situation, not knowing where to go. On one side, if they go to the government hospital, the quality is always a big point in their mind. And on the other side, if they have to go to a big private hospital, cost becomes an impediment. So balancing that, we thought we should be positioned as an emergency care provider, and we are always located in Tier 2 towns and in peri-urban locations. So this model was started in 2011, and we focus on preventive care and also multi-specialty care. Currently, we have like 10 hospitals, and it's been a very interesting journey so far in terms of having got an opportunity to change the way healthcare is delivered in the country. So we have done this in the last 9 years, and we are still going to grow, and it's an exciting journey to grow. Over to you, Ajay.
Thank you, Dr. Vetri. That was absolutely fascinating. Purnima talked about starting from 2009, and you're talking about from 2011 having 10 hospitals up and running in Tamil Nadu. So what a journey it's been, and how far you've come. Absolutely fantastic to hear. You also talked a lot about quality. And then when we think about quality, one thing that Purnima talked about with fruit, I think we could see the same thing when we talk about milk. And I'd like to turn it now over to Sri, who is the founder of Milk Mantra up in Odisha. And Sri, we would just love to hear about your story. And I'm sure you're seeing many parallels as you founded Milk Mantra from Dr. Vetri and Purnima's stories as well. So please, over to you, and we'd love to hear your founding story.
Good evening, Ajay and everyone, and thank you for having me here. So yeah, I think almost about 10 years back, I was working in London back then with the Tata Administrative Service and doing mergers and acquisitions. But I felt that there was a sort of a calling back in India to solve this large problem which existed, which I had seen growing up, and that problem was only getting compounded, which was a huge trust deficit between consumers and food. Unfortunately, in early on in my career, professional career, which was my previous life, I had the opportunity to look at several, the curve that food brands and how the food sector had transitioned in various emerging markets. So I came back to India, to specifically my home state, Odisha, in the east, to found and start Milk Mantra, and that's how sort of the journey began to solve this problem. So there were two clear areas of focus. I wanted to build a premium brand at the front end, which would really be differentiated, be based on high quality product innovation. And you mentioned about quality, and that's exactly exactly some of the problems that both Dr. Vetri and Purnima have been also trying to solve in other value chains of sorts. And I wanted to do that in the dairy products, food products category, with a significant focus on product innovation and differentiation. And at the same time, build a very structured sourcing network, an ethical milk sourcing program, which would impact the lives of hundreds of farmers as we grow. Just as a statistic, there are roughly around 100 million dairy farmers in India, poor dairy farmers in India, or rather many of them are poor marginal farmers. And almost about 70% of them are women dairy farmers. They are the ones who look after the cows. So we launched, we did a lot of product innovation in terms of seeing how we can address the pain points of consumers, and we did very specific innovation on the packaging front, and came up with this whole proposition to allay the fear of consumers who were all boiling milk at home. So that was our starting point. We launched the Milky Moo with a very disruptive proposition back in 2012, and starting with just sort of 500 households to whom we were servicing through our direct D2C, our direct to consumer network back then, before sort of hyperlocal existed as a term. And starting from there, and our ethical milk sourcing program, which we just had a few hundred farmers, in the first year. We've been on this journey of building Milk Mantra, and today I'm happy to share that our ethical milk sourcing program has more than 68,000 farmers, and out of whom almost 20,000 farmers are pouring milk with us each and every day. One very important intervention which we did to enable our ethical sourcing model was the investments, the focus on technology. So we have a very structured tech stack across the company, and on the back end, we've been evolving that tech, and today all our farmer data is captured online with a cloud-based system. And when we started out, we used to capture that manually and put it through a data center, which we had set up in the rural areas as well. So we have data, very rich data on all these farmers over these years, which is sort of enabling us also to look at other applications and really see how we can impact these farmers' lives as we grow. On the front end, the Milky Moo brand has gone on to become one of the fastest growing premium dairy food brands. Of course, the dairy is very fragmented, fresh dairy, so we are all in Eastern India. And we should be starting from the first year with zero net revenues back in 2012. We've kind of scaled it up, and this year we should be anywhere around 250 crores of top line, and that too just from by focusing on one state, which is Orissa. And very importantly, we also wanted to ensure that we are building a sustainable business, because if we are able to build a sustainable business which is able to kind of charge or convince consumers to pay for that quality that we provide, then we will be able to impact the farmers' lives also as we move forward. And with a clear focus on sustainability, we've done a lot of work in the last almost last 2 years to arrive at a point where in the last several quarters we have been fully EBITDA positive. And so the thesis, the hypothesis of sort of building a responsible business which not only does good but also is highly profitable is important. I think that's a very important thesis that we need to be working on as entrepreneurs. And I think to some extent we are sort of establishing that. Currently we are already at 10% EBITDA, which I and my team are very happy about. And we believe that by continuing this focus of a high quality innovation at the front end, which convinces consumers, and at the same time focusing on farmers to so that they are integrated fully into the network, and we are able to access the highest quality of inputs, we will not only be impacting lives at both ends of the value chain, from nutrition to socioeconomic impact, but at the same time we're building a sort of a highly robust, financially robust company as well. So that's where we are at Milk Mantra. It's been a very interesting but very and challenging journey so far, and we're at this stage where this very interesting financial partnership with DFC has come about, and we're really looking forward to growing up from there.
Thank you, Shri. That was fantastic just to hear about your journey from total administrative service on to how do you say it? Happy cows, happy milk, is it?
Yeah, happy farmers means happy cows, and that means the best quality milk.
Best quality milk, right? So that's fantastic. We have quality dairy, quality hospitals, and also quality fruit. That being a virtual conference, we have to just imagine these things. So let's talk about, the other thing that you all have in common, of course, is the DFC. And we're happy to bring you all together, but the panelists here represent different ways and different parts of the toolkit that Dia had mentioned, where the DFC can provide support to your businesses. So let's start with Purnima. If you could talk just a little bit about, in general, the guarantee structure and how that has helped you expand your business. Over to you, Purnima. I think we're unable to hear you. Okay, so we'll wait for you to come back online, and then I'll check in with. So, Dr. Vetri, if you could tell us a little bit about the DFC loan and how it helped you in your business. Over to Dr. Vetri.
Hi, Ajay. Yeah. I think we started this journey in 2011, and we have been quite lucky to have an early stage venture capital fund who supported us since 2011 for us to kind of grow the hospital. The primary motive of Bevel was to create an accessible, affordable, quality healthcare network. So obviously, the challenges. We were exploring markets where there has been no organized players. So it has been a kind of tough early years, but we have been very lucky to have a private equity fund. And over the last 9 years, we have developed the model, we have developed systems, we have developed everything by protocol, and the robust fundamentals have been established. So that was the right time. Then we were looking at probable, we should kind of prevent promoters' dilution and look at a debt option. So we looked at various debt options across the country. As you know, the Indian banks, we looked at them, we talked to them, and there was so many riders, conditions, and high interest rate, but very, very narrow focused mindset of the banking system in the country. So we were lucky enough to be introduced by our investors to DFC. And we actually kind of processed, and we were lucky to get a debt from DFC, which kind of is going to help us grow from 10 to 15 hospitals. So the commitment to grow from 10 to 15 hospitals through a debt fund is very helpful to get an entrepreneur like me who started the journey in 2011, have to dilute a lot during the early stages because of various, you need to experiment, find some systems, make it work. So we have been quite successful, and we are here now with the DFC fund, which will help us to grow from 10 to 15 hospitals.
Thank you, Dr. Vetri. That was very helpful. So you talked about kind of a longer-term loan to help you grow and build out your pipeline of hospitals. I will ask, turn it over to Sri to talk about the DFC's products, and Sri's business, Milk Mother, was able to benefit from some of DFC's new products, including our Chikwa advisory program, our grants program. So over to Sri, please, for your take on DFC's loan and support.
Sorry, I'm just doing a quick check because there was a lot of static. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. If you could just speak up a little bit.
All right. Okay. So Ajay, I think the DFC the financial collaboration that has come about with DFC, with DFC extending a 10 million structured loan line to us is at this time is very, very vital and well timed for us at a time where we've grown, we've really grown at the same time. Some parts of our production assets are utilized optimally. So we really need to make investments to grow our markets, investments to build further capacity, and very importantly, invest in the entire back-end supply chain, from growing from the 68,000 farmers that we have to double that. So it comes at a very important time. Also, I think from a timing perspective now, and the structuring, which has been very sort of helpful for us, keeping our cash flows in view, has been very sort of friendly and helpful, and that's also been an important part of the structured debt that we've raised from DFC. So we're really looking forward to deploying the capital to move forward to the next stage of our growth. We have exciting plans of investing to build a whole new high-tech yogurt manufacturing unit. Our yogurts, our dahi, curd products of Milky Moo have been growing at more than 45% CAGR, and our capacity gets maxed out in the peak months. So we're really looking forward to investing in a completely new plant for that. We're also looking at enhancing capacity in not just both our plants that we have in different parts of Odisha, but we have strong plans to also grow into the Kolkata market as well, which is the big metro in eastern India, and that's market which we have not have not addressed fully at all. So these are some of the very exciting plans we have as far as scaling up is concerned, to really take the company from here to a 3x level within the next sort of 4 years. So that's the plan that we're looking at doing. And also I must mention, I think on the technical assistance piece, would you like me to speak further now, or?
Please do, yeah. Talk about how DFC coupled the technical assistance alongside the loan to deepen the impact of our DFC investment.
Right. So that was something which kind of, as we were discussing with you and the DFC team, and it came about from your end. So we were very excited about that, because we've always been wanting. So part of, maybe to give it a little bit of context, a large part of our ethical milk sourcing program is around payment and pricing transparency, wherein we've made several interventions. But apart from that, there's a whole focus on several development initiatives for farmers, so that their capacity enhances as we grow and as they grow with us. One such important element is around financial inclusion. Most of these farmers have been out of the financial ecosystem, and they have not been able to access banking or credit and any other most other financial products. So even early on in our growth and setting up, we had tied up with banks to provide through tripartite agreements to provide loans to enterprising farmers in our network, which all of this had been growing up in small ways. But we felt that if we are able to really have a digital financial platform for our farmers, and have all the operational transactional data on that platform, and create a credit score at the same time, and really tie up the entire ecosystem with the financial ecosystem, then this digital financial services, this DFS platform, could provide significantly enhanced inputs to farmers, which will be obviously highly beneficial for the farmers, and at the same time enable us to be transacting very efficiently with thousands of farmers as well. So the technical assistance kind of came in at a very opportune moment, wherein it will help us really build this DFS platform and product, which we are really looking forward to. And in fact, we've kind of geared up with a small tech team who are waiting to build the product and as soon as we kick off the plan.
I can't wait to see that go live. So alongside a loan, which is providing financing for, infrastructure, basically, your dairy infrastructure. There's also the kind of the softer piece of working with farmers on finding digital, financial solutions for your farmers. I'd like to turn over to Purnima as well to talk about the guarantee structure and that type of DFC investment, and what you were seeing in the market when you went out to market and were looking for loans from the financial institutions there. So over to you, Purnima. You're on mute.
Sorry about that technical glitch. When we started, capital was scarce. Today, agriculture has become very, very attractive when people want to raise money. But way back in 2009, it was difficult. And, Avishkar has been the first, they were really looking, they were the pioneers as far as the impact investing is concerned, right? And we were fortunate to receive support from them as we started I&I Farms. Coming specifically to DFC, Ajay, we've also had support of some of the non-banking financial institutions, whether it's Caspian or Responsibility, who we've used during the course of these 10 years at I&I Farms. But when DFC came in as an option, I think, it's been a bridge between an NBFC and a commercial banking finance channel, right? So the guarantee structure really opened up the channel of banking finance being available to us. So today, because of DFC, we have aligned with Citibank, which is being used by the company. So it's that bridge which has lent a lot of credibility to the organization in terms of being able to access capital through the banking channels, and that's been that I think is been a game changer for I&I if I were to really put it into perspective. I would like to actually call on two other things. Of course, there is a cost of capital and credibility, but I think two things that have been I think personally I've been very kicked about the entire evaluation process or the diligence process that we went through with DFC. There was a lot of confidence that we're doing something right? So that was a big one for us. And the second thing, which is very, very critical again for us from a learning perspective, which is beyond capital, is the fact that, when we were looking at our policy procedures on the impact side, there was a complete hand-holding which happened. It was not just about diligence and closing, but it was also about guiding us as to what are the best practices that we should be looking at when it comes to impact and measurement of impact within the organization. So, DFC has really done a great value add on those two fronts also for us.
Thank you, Purnima. I'm so glad you had mentioned the policy aspects. We hear a lot about the sustainability of our programs and the policy items. The thing I heard from Sri and Dr. Vetri was talking about the patients and bringing out from the hospital side, bringing out affordability of care and the kind of impact that a new dairy processing has on its farmers. So I'd now like to turn it over to Dia to talk a little bit about, how DFC in the PI program and the PI Squared program looks at impact, from the outset when we're first originating these loans to our due diligence process and monitoring. What is it that we look for as we're looking for it to provide loans and investment to social enterprises?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate that question. As we've heard today, the focus of PI Squared is all about sustainability and social impact. And we take that impact part of it extremely seriously. And we think it's the core to the sustainability of the companies that we invest in. And I think you could see that in several different ways as each company told their story. And I think for us, it's very important for us to be able to be flexible and adaptable and understand the challenges within the environment that each entrepreneur is operating in, and to also be very pragmatic. So as part of our diligence process, we really like to have the conversation of what does social impact mean to your business, and how do you track it, and how do you see it as meaningful and valuable. And it takes many different forms. You can see in the instance of Milk Mantra, it's looking at the farmers and providing the farmers not only with support for the business, but also that financial inclusion. When you think about Be Well Hospitals, as Ajay and Dr. Vetri mentioned, it's that ability to serve that gap between quality and cost, and to look at affordability. So those are just some examples of how we track impact. And also, as you look at I&I Farms, how we track impact as you look at the processing, as you look at the co-ops that I&I Farms works with. So I think for us, what we like to do is we like to really target it to each company and look at what are the core 3 to 5 factors of measuring impact for that company, and use that as guidance and as part of our process and the success of our program. Additionally, we take a step back for our program and look at it across the various different sectors and companies that we invest in, looking at things that are, I guess, I would say more common, such as employment and capital mobilized. But the very heart or core of the Pi Spirit program is looking at each company individually and teasing out what impact metrics are most meaningful to their business, their enterprise, and using that to track our performance.
Thank you, Dia. So with that, I'd like to ask Sri. So we're coming to the conclusion of our panel here, but I really want to hit home and talk about data and statistics that each of these companies track. And if we could just focus on some quick statistics, and we'll kind of go more rapidly through. Sri, if you could just tell us about the impact of your company on whether it be farmers, and what do you track, and what can you share with us today?
Right. So I think especially on the sourcing front, we track several metrics. Some of them directly, some of them sort of as surrogate metrics. So very clearly, like the number of farmers we directly source milk from, as opposed to going through a small aggregator, that is a clear important one, and and that's something which we have been continuously focusing on to grow over the years. And in fact, in the next phase, we are looking at doubling that as such. The second one is around how the farmers who have been with us for the last 4 or 5 years or more, how have their productivity levels moved, and that's something we track through sort of dipsticks and panels, and we've seen that over the last 4 years, most of our farmers' productivity levels have gone up by 31 to 35%, which is a sort of significantly sort of positive and happy number for us, given the kind of disaggregated farmers that we're looking at. And thirdly, sort of how income levels of farmers have grown who've been with our network, and that is a very important metric, because our thesis has been to build a sort of mass premium brand, at the same time use that to pass on more benefits to the farmers. And on that front, I think over the last again 4 years, farmer incomes on an average have gone up by almost 61%. So these are some of the metrics we track, and some of these are sort of extremely positive for us. Of course, we have to do more on certain other metrics, which we know. For example, most of the farmers in our network, majority of them are actually women farmers, so they get empowered because of having access to this. But given the whole rural ecosystem, usually the registered farmer may not be a woman; it may be a sort of the man of the house or someone. So it becomes difficult for us to track, but directly. But we know for sure that apart from the economic interventions, the productivity interventions, the woman in the household, in marginal households, rural households, are really, who are part of our ethical milk sourcing program, are significantly empowered because of this.
Thank you, Shri. Very helpful. I'll turn it over to Dr. Vetri, who is all about the numbers. I think you might track these on occasion every week. Patients, and when you started working with DFC, we asked you to look at a specific set of numbers. So, but we'd be interested to hear what you track for impact, and what impact Be Well has had on Tamil Nadu.
Good. I think we basically track impact on three fronts, basically on the three pillars on which Be Well is existing. One is accessibility. As you know, we are located in Tier 2 towns and suburbs of location. And the key impact that we really provide on the ground is the 24 hours emergency care. So if you measure the number of emergency footfalls in each of the hospital in that particular location, we are the preferred provider when it comes to emergency care. So that's a very tangible metric that we have measured and established ourselves. For example, people were actually traveling about 40 kilometers for routine dialysis care before Be Well. After Be Well, people could come into Be Well hospital for the dialysis. So those kind of metrics have really kind of ensured that access has been given to the people where they deserve it. And the second prominent thing is affordability. As you know, about 40% of the people who walk into Be Well hospital earn around 15,000 a month. So in terms of a private quality healthcare provider, we have really provided value for money to them, for them to come into any of the Be Well hospital and get the same level of care any leading hospital could provide. And the third one is basically quality. So the quality metrics in each of our operations, we are NABH accredited in 2 hospitals. It's basically a national accreditation body where we have voluntarily submitted ourselves and have got accreditation, which in itself tells that it's a very, very measurable metric to denote our quality. And last but not least, I think one of the common things which we focus is 60% of our staff are women employees. So, as you know, nurses are one of the key pillars of hospitals, and to put together 60% of women workforce that we have got, and these are all very tangible benefit that we have been getting, and this impact has been very much measured, and we actually continue to monitor it and keep improving those metrics. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Vetri. I think, Purnima, I think you have some similar statistics, and we would just love to hear, a basic summary from I&I Farms. And we talked about women's employment. We talked about, increasing incomes, for farmers there. So over to you.
Yeah, so Ajay, while impact is a natural outcome of the space and the sector that we are in, as a company, we've specifically focused on 3 of the UN SDG goals, right? So one is, of course, around gender equality. The second is decent economic and work and economic growth. And the third is sustainable consumption, right? So those are the 3 UN goals that we've adopted as an organization. Talking about gender equality, it's very central to our business. We have 2 of our business verticals which employ more than 70% women today. And these have been very, very male-dominated skilled jobs that have been happening. And very proud to share that, one department is almost 90% women and the other is 70% women, where only the heavy lifting is being done by men. Everything else is already moved to the women folk. So that's where we are in terms of, the impact that we've had on rural employment as far as women is concerned. 2 out of the 5 members on I&I board are women. We have about 30% women in our senior management team. So just giving you some statistics on how we are, constantly tracking how we are integrated women in different aspects of our business. The second one, which is decent work and economic growth. We are impacting almost 10,000 lives today. I spoke about 5,000 farmers that we directly work with in rural India where we work. There are about 500 labor that we employ, small transporters, the allied sector, which is supporting the ecosystem on the ground. So, all in all, it's about 10,000 plus lives that we are impacting, which is important for us. Associated with that is the fact that, we take care of social security, insurances of all these people, right? So it's really tracking as to how are we doing on all of those parameters. We recently, registered for a Great Place to Work survey, which is conducted. And while the final report has not come in as yet, we are the first draft or the first report that has come in actually shares that we are among the top 50 mid-sized companies from a Great Place to Work perspective. So again, gives a great feeling. When we look at sustainable consumption, it's all about food safety. We recently launched our traceability feature. We've always been traceable when it comes to food, but today we're taking it to a different level. It's not about food going back and tracing it to what went wrong in the supply chain. Today we've taken it to a level where we are able to drive a communication between a consumer who could be sitting in US or Europe and say thank you to a farmer who's grown that fruit for them, right? So the fruit today, every single fruit of INI under the brand Kimai carries a traceability sticker, a QR code on the fruit, and anybody who's consuming this fruit can actually know where this has come from, which farmer in which part of India has grown it for him or her, and can actually say thank you to that farmer. So that is what we are doing when it comes to sustainable consumption. And, these are some of the metrics. There are a host of others that we also track, but just in the interest of time, would like to focus on these and close.
No, those were the big highlights. And if I know you, you probably have some women employees in the gym that will soon be taking up those, lifting positions. So you'll be 100% females in pomegranate. You're on mute, though. I would just love to hear your quick reaction. Oh, unfortunately, still on mute. So we have a couple of questions. I'm just going to do two in the interest of time. First is for our panelists, and second, for Dia. So for the first question is most likely for Dr. Vetri. How can we solve the problem of hedging in your loan, given the small borrowing size and enterprises may not be able to handle currency issues? How did you solve the issue that DFC provides U.S. dollar lending?
Okay, I think we had a banker who actually undertook 100% hedging on it. So I think it is very advisable to take 100% hedging given the volatility of the dollar. And I think all the banks does it, so it's quite easy to take 100% hedging on it straight away.
Great.
Above the interest, above the DFC's loan.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vetri. I think that the Indian market is pretty robust to find hedging solutions for INR USD foreign currency hedge. Our last question is over to you, Dia. Just to reiterate some points that you made in the beginning about the program. So the question is, what is the kind of size and scale the enterprise needs to be in while approaching DFC for debt?
Great question. So typically we say if you've reached either $1 million in revenue or total assets, but we're also somewhat flexible. So if you're approaching $1 million in either of those metrics and you think that you are interested or you're interested in DFC financing, I think it never hurts to start the conversation. One of the things that we've started to do with a lot of our clients is start to talk about milestones and next steps for financing. So again, it's 1 million in revenue or 1 million in assets, but if you're close to that, we'd be happy to talk with you and talk about the pathway to DFC financing.
Great. Thank you, Dia. And with that, we will close our session. I wanted to thank our panelists for joining us this evening, and Dia as well, early morning there in Washington. And to the Sankalp organizers, what a fantastic conference you've had, and thank you for bringing us all together to share our stories. So thank you all, and wishing you well.
Thank you so much.